Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Stefano. I'm sure you were all inundated by the gazillion email blasts that I sent you about this event, but I guess it worked because we have a nice crowd here today, so I appreciate everyone being here. In any event, I'm the accounting program chairperson here at Mercy and a board member to both the New York State Society of CPAs and the Institute of Internal Auditors, who are co-sponsoring this event with Mercy College. I'd like to welcome you to Mercy in today's Workforce Diversity Panel Symposium. We have some impressive panelists here with us today, hailing from top accounting firms and businesses, who'll share best practices, provide personal reflection in discussing this important topic of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Just a few housekeeping matters for today's symposium. At the end of the discussion today, we will open it up to an open Q&A forum for anyone in the audience who would like to pose questions to the panelists. So you'll have some opportunity to direct your questions to the panelists at the conclusion of the discussion. Also, when you checked in at the registration table, you should have received a piece of paper with a number on it. Hang on to that number because we're going to be conducting a raffle during the symposium today. There's some books called The Blind Spot that Edie Magnus, our panel moderator, will talk about. And then last but not least, across from where you checked in, there are a bunch of little goodies and giveaways. And I know when students come out to these events, they love to pick up pens and stress balls and things like that. So please help yourself, if you didn't on the way in, to some of those giveaways when you leave. Now, before I turn this over to my co-chair of the event, Gwen Horn, I'd like to recognize a few Mercy College leaders who are here with us in the audience today. First, I'd like to recognize our Mercy College president, Tim Hall, who'd like to say a few words. We also have Dr. Jose Herrera over on the my right-hand side, some of your left-hand side, I guess. And Dr. Herrera is the Mercy College Provost of Academic Affairs and Faculty Affairs here at Mercy College. Now I'll turn this over to President Hall.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Presidents get around to lots of events that go on campus, and I've been to a fair number of events that have been planned and orchestrated by our accounting program. So since they're the sort of Mercy side host of this event, I thought I'd tell you a couple of things I've observed about the accounting program, and you can conclude whether there's any connection. The first thing is this. Mercy is a minority-serving institution, so diversity is kind of built into our bones. But one of the things that I've discovered is there are places where that's stronger and weaker within the college. And the accounting program is one of those places that I've experienced as a place that's really strong in the area of respecting diversity and inclusion and those kinds of principles. That's one observation. The second observation is this. I spend a fair amount of time at alumni kinds of events. Those are very important for colleges. We're always trying to connect our alumni to the college and make sure that they stay up to date on what's going on. And this is the second thing I've observed, is our accounting program has one of the strongest, most vibrant alumni groups in the college. Now, I've frequently wondered to myself whether those two observations are connected, whether there's some connection between the kind of principles that the accounting program is embodying and the fervor with which its alumni stay connected to the program. And frequently they do so very early in their careers, which is not that common. Alumni participation tends to be something that happens after you get nostalgic about your college years when you turn 50 or so. But at least in the accounting program, I see people who've been out for 1 or 2 or 3 years. They're back here every year for a major event that we have. I suspect that those two things go together. I suspect that that will help enrich the discussion we have today, and I hope you have a good time.
Thank you, President Hall. Now I'd like to turn this over to Gwen Horn, who would like to say a few words on behalf of the New York State Society of CPAs, and she'll also introduce our panelists. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see such a diverse group here. I don't know how that happened. My name is Gwen Horn. I'm a tax manager for PKF O'Connor Davies, and I'm on the board of the Westchester chapter of the New York State Society of CPAs. On my way in this morning, I love to listen to NPR radio. It really has diverse topics. I highly recommend it. And they discussed, Amazon is looking for cities to vie for their new corporate offices. And apparently, New York City's pitch included a reference to the fact that New York City has the most diverse and talented pool of prospective employees in the country. And I thought that was really powerful, that this is a pitch to a business that we're diverse. So I thought that was a good omen for today's program. The incoming president of the New York State Society of CPAs, Harold Dieters, recently spoke to the issue of diversity and inclusion and how important it is for us as the State Society to focus on it, not just as a moral imperative, but because it is critical for companies' bottom lines. And in fact, the State Society just created a diversity committee, and we have the chair of the committee, Rumbi Petrozello, on our panel today. So it's a pretty important initiative for the New York State Society of CPAs. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. We're going to start from my far right and work towards me. So the panelist all the way on the far right is Maureen Boleri. Let me put my glasses on so I can be clear. Maureen is a Human Resources Director in the New York Office of Protiviti. She's responsible for the Northeast Region Human Resources Team and oversees human resources, resource management, recruiting, and office administration for the firm. She also works closely with the geographic and solution leaders to help drive and execute the strategic global human resources vision. Prior to joining Protiviti, Maureen spent 6 years at the former big accounting firm of Arthur Andersen as an external auditor and also as an HR manager. So thank you for being here, Maureen. Next, we have Bria Griffith. Bria is a senior manager with the national accounting firm of Cohn Resnick. She's the firm's National Diversity and Inclusion Council chair and has led the National Social Impact Committee and Pay It Forward subcommittee for the past 7 years. Bria has nearly a decade of experience providing project management, financial management, policy and program compliance, and oversight consulting services to state and federal government clients. So thanks so much for being here, Bria. To Bria's left, we have Samarli Jarrett. Samarli is an agency account strategist at Google on the marketing solutions team, where she currently serves as an ad strategy consultant for 15 advertising agencies. Marley secured her role at Google directly after completing her BA in Geography and Women and Gender Studies at Dartmouth College. And I believe she's pretty involved with the Diversity Council through Dartmouth College, if I'm not mistaken. She's a proud graduate of Mount Vernon High School, and she's very excited to be here, and we are more than excited to have her. Going down the line, next we have Kevin Kubicki. Kevin is the Director of Talent for IBM's rapidly growing cloud business unit, where he's responsible for strategic workforce management and planning, including talent acquisition, workforce analytics, performance management, and professional development. Kevin has held a variety of positions across both finance and human resources in his 16 years with IBM. Prior to joining IBM, Kevin worked for both the Walt Disney Company and Lockheed Martin. So he's worked for some pretty big companies. And as previously mentioned, next we have Rumbi Buiranova Petrozello. Rumbi is the principal of Rock Forensics, a forensics accounting firm. She's also the editor of Figuring Financial Forensics, which is a website. And as I mentioned before, she's the chair of the New York State Society of CPAs Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Rumbi also serves on the AICPA's FLS committee and is a member of the Fraud and Litigation Task Forces. She is also the vice president of the Central Virginia chapter of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Okay, I guess you get around Rumbi, Virginia. Next to Rumbi, we have Thalia Savan-Smith. Thalia is an audit partner with the big accounting firm of Deloitte, and she has over 15 years of audit experience, primarily serving the insurance industry on a multinational level, and she's a level 2 insurance specialist. Thalia has led cross-functional teams supporting significant client transactions, and she's developed a reputation for being highly organized. Oh, I got to start hanging around with you, Thalia. And responsive. Okay, that part I got. And is known for her strong commitment to people, both client and Deloitte colleagues, relationships, and community. So thank you for being here, Thalia. Finally, we have Anna Way. Anna is a national director at Ascend, which is a national network of 17 professional chapters and 27 student chapters dedicated to helping Pan-Asians advance in the corporate world across many industry sectors and throughout different career levels. Anna has a comprehensive background in sales, having sold for IBM and capital market groups at various bulge bracket Wall Street firms. Now, I'm embarrassed to say I had to look up what bulge bracket is, and you guys should too after this, and you'll learn a cool word. She's consulted on human resources related issues for two major global recruiting firms, Heidrick and Struggles and CT Partners. And now I will introduce our panel moderator, Edie Magnus, who's going to be leading today's panel discussion. Edie is the executive director of Mercy College's Media and Innovation team, and she's a former news correspondent and anchor for two major networks, NBC and CBS. So now I'm going to turn the discussion over to Edie's capable hands, and thank you everyone so much for being here. I hope you get a lot out of this morning.
All right, I'm going to vamp for a minute while we can solve a technical problem here. So I'll just use my big broadcast voice if that's okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Thank you all, our distinguished panel, for coming, and thank you all for coming. You know, these events, they take a lot of planning. It takes a lot to get this group of amazing people all together, able to be with us at one point in the morning. So I really want to give a nod to Denise and to Gwen and to our support staffs and facilities people who have to jump in and do things like this at the last minute. So thank you guys all. Let's give them a round of applause. That doesn't happen easily. Okay, I'm going to start. Does this work now? Cool. By the way, the swag is not just for students. I took a pen immediately, and if I'd known there was a stress ball, I might have, gone for that. I don't think this is on. Is it? Okay. Okay. And we're going to have a raffle in a little bit. So let me just bring this up. Okay. I want to start with a big question for all of you. And let me just tell you also, we have a million questions, and I want everyone to get a chance here. So if you think that already the subject has been addressed, let me know. We'll move on so we can get to other topics that might be of interest to you. But the first big one would be, given today's employment climate, political climate, incredibly racially and culturally charged climate, I think that's not too much of an overstatement, why is inclusiveness important for business? So let me just start down at the end, and you guys can all tackle this one.
Good morning. At Protiviti, certainly we support inclusion, and really the workforce right now is extremely diverse. We are serving global clients and also all different backgrounds, bringing in that talent to deliver the best and the brightest, and bring the diverse backgrounds and all the education that you bring and different perspectives has really helped us excel with our clients. So we continue to focus on this and will, going forward as well. Our head of diversity and inclusion sits on our executive team, which is basically the governing body of Protiviti, and that's how important it is to our firm to make sure that we are looking at these topics on a daily basis.
Given today's climate, literally, I think when talking about inclusion, it's important to think about belonging. And specifically when you're talking about a workforce, the workforce is diverse, but that also means that firms and companies across the board, we really are in competition for that talent. And so if we're in competition for the talent, we have to make sure the talent wants to stay with us. And that happens when people feel like they belong. So that is why inclusion is so important. The diversity part, you can check some boxes and figure out diversity. But if people don't want to stay, if that talent doesn't want to stay with your firm and invest in your firm, that's where the challenges come. So at Cohn-Resnick, we really do stress that people feel like they belong. David Resnick, who started actually Resnick Group, so Cohn-Resnick is the result of a merger. But David Resnick used to say all the time, if they come in the door, they belong here, right? So if they belong here, we have to make them feel like they belong.
At Google, one of our principles is making sure that everybody feels that they can be their full selves at work. And as you just stressed, so everybody having a sense of belongingness. For us, diversity is everyone having a seat at the table, and the inclusion part is everyone having a voice at the table. And for a global company, that's extremely important for us to produce products, to have folks that are from diverse backgrounds and with different talents and abilities to be able to really serve a global audience.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity of being here today. At IBM, we firmly believe that diversity is a strategic imperative of ours. We believe that diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of experiences leads to new and innovative thinking, which is particularly important within the technology industry. And so as a result of that, we take very cognitive steps to not only try to recruit a very diverse mix of individuals coming into the workforce, but also giving them the opportunity to foster, grow, and develop up through the leadership ranks so that we can continue to develop our individuals in such a way where different opinions, thoughts, backgrounds, experiences, cultures can thrive. And once again, I think there's been many different studies that have shown that, the overall, health of an organization, even the profits that are driven within the organization, can be correlated to the diversity of one's workforce, and we strongly believe that that's a strategic imperative of ours.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
I am the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the New York State Society of CPAs. I have my own firm, which is as diverse as it gets because it's me. It's of color. It's immigrant. It's what else is on the list? Whatever it is, it's here. But with the New York State Society of CPAs, we, and I say we like I work there. I am a volunteer member. But what is very important is starting the path to diversity and inclusion as early as possible, because one of the challenges is as people are going through at various levels, when you're in high school, when you're in college, or when you're looking for a job, if you feel that you don't stand a chance of belonging or being included or sort of being a part of conversation or being heard, then a lot of people are going to give up and they're going to decide to do something else. So we actually we have programs that start at high school and we're sort of trying to develop our programming through college so that we're supporting, a diverse profession and then in the workplace. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion and our conversations, inclusion means everyone. I had a conversation with a man last week and he was like, we have a diversity and inclusion program at our workplace. And I said, well, how's it going? He goes, well, I don't know. I don't think I'm invited. And I'm like, well, if you're not part of the conversation, then we're already not having the inclusion happening. Everyone has to be part of it and understand and respect that everyone's voice and opinions are very important and, as Kevin mentioned, could lead to great innovation and great things.
Great. Okay, good morning, everyone. And I have to say that you guys all look amazing this morning. You're really dressed up. So, Thalia Smith, Deloitte, so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I really don't want to repeat what I've heard so far. I think Deloitte's message is pretty consistent with all of the things said. One of the biggest things I wanted to point out, though, we are very focused on helping you be a whole person, not just a professional. We want to lead in that regard. And so in order for us to lead in making you a whole person and helping you become a whole person, we want you to actually take steps back, focus on yourself, understand how can you be stronger how can you be better, how can you be secure in who you are and what you bring to the table. And so we've developed a lot of programs that I personally have had the opportunity to benefit from. Programs focused on, me being a woman, programs focused on me being a young professional, programs focused on me being a Black person at the firm, which allowed me to really understand myself and then figure out what can I bring to the firm and really to the world. And so I think it's great that we've decided to lead in that regard, and I know there have been some recent articles on our leadership in that area that we can talk about shortly, but that's really been our focus, and it's why I'm still with Deloitte today.
Good morning. So being the last person, and trying to, piggyback off of everyone, I'm with Ascend. We're a Pan-Asian organization. Diversity and inclusion is, what we do. And piggyback off of Kevin and everyone else, really, for that matter, what I see, I partner with a lot of corporations, so I speak to a lot of people in the D&I groups. And, even from a business point of view, as Kevin had said, diversity of thought is really important. And, the fact that companies have these programs and have these committees to really get people to engender them so that they do speak up and give their contribution as being a diverse candidate. And just a really small example of this, and I always thought it was a very cute example, but there are companies, one Clorox, everyone knows who Clorox is. They happen to make the Brita water filter. And within the Southeast Asian population, even in this country, they like to filter their water because this is something they did in their home country. So I think it was 2012, the year of the dragon, the affinity group within their company, so all these companies have different affinity groups depending on what your diversity background is. The Pan-Asian one went to the product manager and for diversity of thought said, well, look, it's the year of the dragon. Why don't we just, put a red dragon on that Brita water filter box? And they did, and revenues were up, over 30% in the previous next quarter. So, and they've even, made greater contributions than that. And Clorox ended up buying 2 Chinese companies in China to help them. So that's what's so empowering about diversity of thought. It's not just a nice thing to do, but it's a very profitable thing to do. It's a very profitable on all levels, not just money. So it really goes both ways. So you should think that you are definitely making a huge contribution with your own individual thought based on your background and your values.
I love that example because I think that sometimes the conversation about diversity and inclusiveness risks being up here in the ether as opposed to actually getting down to the world of what are companies doing, what is working. So for instance, I just want to ask a question. The fact that the head of diversity sits on your executive team, for instance, that's a very specific move. I'm wondering, does that make a difference? How recent is that? What signal does it send? That's a, that's a very specific thing that your company has done. And I wonder what the net effect of it has been.
So what we also put in place are employee network groups that roll up to the Global Diversity Lead. So that is, those are committees that are actually formed by our employees, and it's depending on what group, whether it's, out and equal, whether it's working with, the veterans, whether it's not just, minorities. It's working with all different groups. And so these employees are putting together these employee network groups, spreading the word around the company, working cross networks, and then those committees are rolling up to the Global Diversity Lead. And so their voice is being heard directly to the executive team based on their contributions, because that's kind of the conduit between the employee network groups and the executive team. So I do think it has brought visibility, it's brought action, and we're seeing definitely different groups connecting, and it's awareness and education and having the different groups working together and sharing their message, their experiences, what they have to bring, and what they can contribute. So again, making them part of the solution. So it has been effective.
You mentioned variously sort of 2 different ways companies may be tackling this. One is these so-called inclusion councils, right, which have membership from across the board, can include, for instance, white men as in addition to minority groups. And then there are affinity groups, which might feel like a safer place for people of like identities to gather. I just wonder, and really, whoever would like to answer this, is there one or the other that you think works better?
Okay,
Please, jump in.
Okay, I'll start. So, and I would like Thalia to say something. I put her on the spot. But I think a lot of the time, and a lot of business entities, just based on a lot of the conversations that I've had, a lot of companies tend to have affinity groups, which I sort of, I guess, are considered to be the safe spaces where sort of people of like characteristics, diversity, sort of meet and speak together. And when you talk to people, the benefits of those groups may vary. It may not necessarily be that I felt that, I got ahead at work because I was part of this group, but it was more, I think it comes maybe back to the belonging or feeling that you have a space where you're heard, or when you're struggling with certain things that maybe you feel you can be understood. So that is where people have found the importance of groups like that. Not to say that the groups don't also provide professional development benefits; those are there as well. But I think there are these other aspects of those groups that are important to people. I mentioned Thalia because Deloitte has I don't even know what the term is, launched more inclusion councils, which include everyone. And our state society, our diversity and inclusion committee is a new committee that started this year. But the first thing that we did, just I think based on what our goals are, is that our committee is specifically open to everyone, because the conversation we're trying to have, everyone has to be a part of, because we want to make sure that all our membership understands the importance of what it's like you throw out these terms, diversity and inclusion, but yes, but what that really means and why that is truly important in various ways, and if the leadership is not included, we're thinking if the leadership is not a part of that conversation or a part of that movement, and if the leadership doesn't believe in its importance, then we can't achieve what our goal is on our committee. And so I think, for me, when you think about why you have different structures in these different groups, it's because these topics are complex, and so you need many ways to come to find a solution.
Yep. So,
You know what, will you move that microphone just a little closer to
okay, I actually have a big voice, so that's why I'm like, okay. So I completely agree with everything that Rumbi just said. And I can speak from my personal experience. Deloitte, for the last, and long before I got there, more than 15 years ago, we've had a number of affinity groups, again, focused on women, focused on people of different cultures. And just recently, we launched the inclusion councils. And when we think about why did we start the affinity groups in the first place, the goal there was to help our people develop and advance. And so when we took a step back and we looked at, were the affinity groups achieving that goal? Yes, in small percentages, but we really were not hitting the numbers that we had hoped to hit. And when we looked at the root cause for that, a large part of it was the fact that certain people were not present in those groups. And so what do I mean by that? In advancing, one of the things that you need in advancing is a sponsor. Everyone familiar with the sponsor concept? And the sponsors, when you think about the leadership of the company, still to this day are generally more white males. Some white females, there is some trinkets of diversity up there, but for the most part, it's white males. So if you don't have white males involved in the affinity groups, for whatever reason, we found that our people were not advancing. They might have been developing, but were not as advancing as best as they could, or they were leaving for various reasons. So our hope is by actually having these inclusion councils, and we started last year in 5 offices, and I think we're going to be in 20 offices this year, that we bring a group of people to the table that really help you connect and help you launch a career. And so I can say for me personally, it wasn't necessarily, we didn't have an inclusion council when I made partner, but I ended up working on teams where the right people were present, where the right sponsors were present, and that's what helped me advance.
What's the most effective diversity training that your company employs?
So just a couple thoughts there. So just kind of reflecting upon what other people have said. I think you have to take a multi-pronged approach to diversity, inclusion, including training. Certainly setting a message at the top and at the senior leadership ranks is certainly very important. You also have to provide certain support structures from the bottom of the organization and across our management teams. There's been a lot of growing work around what's called unconscious biases. Really looking at barriers, either barriers of entry for women or underrepresented minorities in coming into the workforce, barriers that may be within an organization that could impede, career velocity or development or promotion or pay equity. And I think it's important for all of us to kind of understand, well, what are really the root causes of those barriers, and what can we do to try to break down those barriers? And so I think you have to tackle it in multiple dimensions. So first, for our management teams, it's being aware of what those unconscious biases are. And we provide training across our management and leadership teams to recognize what those unconscious biases could be and how to counteract that.
What does that training entail? I'm really interested to try to draw out some specifics. What does that look like?
Many different things. So first, it's awareness, right? We have to be aware, and our management teams have to be aware of kind of how we think, how we communicate, and how, more importantly, we listen. Communication is key. And that is a building block, in terms of kind of recognizing or maybe even taking a step back and being more introspective as an individual, and perhaps be more aware of how you may or may not be treating certain individuals differently or consistently. There's also a growing movement within a lot of HR functions these days around workforce analytics, providing more of a data-driven approach to help inform decisions, give our managers additional tools to make decisions, and really provide our employees more assistance through a data-driven approach where we can say, okay, across certain segments of our workforce, we see X, Y, and Z issues, and what can we do to kind of break that down? I think it's also important to take a look at cultural, societal, economic barriers as well, and what can we do as industry to work with academics, other business councils, schools, colleges, universities, to better kind of train, make people aware, as well as build programs, really at more of an early age, so that we can foster a climate of inclusion and diversity that ultimately we want to tap into and attract into our workforce.
Anyone else? Is there a particular kind of diversity training that you see as being very effective?
So I think it's, at this point, it's sort of difficult to say what's effective and what's not. Google itself released diversity numbers only a couple years ago, and so the implications of different things that have been tried have not been solidified yet, so I can't speak to what has been most effective. I can tell you what is currently being done. So similar to IBM, we also have unconscious bias training, which is mandatory for everyone at the company. And that looks very different depending on what organization you're in. So with a global company that's also multifaceted, let's say we separate our engineering teams from our global business organization teams, which is the team that I'm on, so our advertising and sales teams. Across both of those teams, everyone would be required to take unconscious bias training. However, as you go deeper in within each organization, the way that you tackle diversity and inclusion might be very different. So on the sales side of things, we have a sales inclusion task force. I'm the New York co-lead for our inclusion task force in New York. And that's something that's open to everyone. I will also point out that our affinity groups, that we call them employee resource groups across the company, are open to everyone. So for example, I'm a part of the Black Googlers Network, but there are people that are not Black that are in the Black Googlers Network. And that's because we understand that you do need sponsors and advocates that are not necessarily from the same background as you, because leadership does not often look like you. So that's like one prong of it. On the engineering side, things are a little bit different, where we've actually been partnering with HBCUs to focus on computer science education in those schools to try to recruit a more diverse talent pool. So I think it's a very complicated problem. There are going to be many different solutions, whether it's focusing on hiring, building a specific diverse pipeline, but then also retaining those people as well. There's no one-stop solution from what I've seen. So that's sort of our approach. It's very multifaceted and very dynamic.
Let me just say, we're going to be returning actually to this issue of unconscious bias. I think we've all seen a couple of big examples in the news recently where companies have had this very issue of an attempt to be culturally sensitive blow up in their faces, because it was very clear that how it was received was not necessarily how it was delivered. I do want to ask, do any of your companies employ this technique of perspective taking, which is the process of sort of exercises to have someone mentally walk through someone else's shoes?
So I don't think that this is company-wide, but as a part of the Sales Inclusion Task Force, for example, our most recent discussion was about privilege. And so kind of walking through as a team, I want to explain this in a way that makes sense to everyone. Mm-hmm. So as a part of the Sales Inclusion Task Force, we have folks from every single team across the sales team in New York, at least one representative who is responsible for serving as an advocate for their team in issues relating to diversity and inclusion. Another additional part of that is training. And training not in the sense of being taught, but interactive and collaborative. And so we'll do these activities, and they're called inclusion moments. And it's just taking 10 to 15 minutes during your team meetings to go over a topic or an issue relating to diversity and inclusion. So one topic that was discussed a couple months ago was the expanding Hispanic market in the US. And as a sales team, how we can leverage the data points that we have and the knowledge that we have on the team to better serve that market. The most recent conversation that we have was around privilege and what that means and how it affects the way that we do our job and how we interact with our clients, but also how we interact as a team. So there are other teams, so like our engineering teams, for example, or HR teams might not take the same approach, but that's what we do. We have found so far that it has helped. We don't know the implications of whether or not it's going to help people advance their careers or things like that. But in terms of fostering a sense of belongingness and inclusion, we have found that it's been pretty useful.
I remember when a network, which will go unnamed, who I used to work for, first picked a director of diversity. And I know that there were a lot of people who just sort of, rolled their eyes about whether or not that position would be ceremonial or whether it would actually achieve something. And I guess I have a question about how do you know a company is truly committed to this issue, to walking the walk, and not just doing this for perception?
So, I'm going to have to be very politic in what I say, because I see so many things, because I deal with so many companies and various industry groups. And yeah, I often see that there are companies that just do it as a checkbox. because it's the right thing to do, and it's all about optics and getting people there. And there are other companies that are definitely more committed. Obviously, management undergoes changes, so their agenda might change as well. So it gets really complicated. I know these diversity groups or affinity groups, or we call them ERGs, employee resource groups, or BRGs, business resource groups. At some companies, they're very viable. I think it's really a function of what the individual resource group is doing, how vocal they are, how active they become. And as we just previously spoke about these inclusion councils, the employee resource groups that do very well tend to have what we call an executive sponsor, and who, again, doesn't have to be of that same diverse background. And I've seen, examples where there's a very large bank in this country where the CEO's mandate was to have the 7 people of the different divisions reporting into him be responsible for each diversity group. So that was really powerful, and they're trying to do things like that. The reason that you want an executive sponsor is because the executive sponsor will go to bat for you, and they will get you money in your budget so that you can have professional training for yourselves, as opposed to, you had asked about professional training on the other side. But I think it's really important that people get professionally trained. I think it's really important that companies stand up to that too, because the companies are saying, look, we value you, we want to nurture you, we really want you to stay here because retention can't be an issue. So it's up to the employee network group to say, look, we want to stay here, we like this company, but we need to be professionally developed. So I think there is a lot of power behind the ERGs. And with regard to just your question, it is really tricky. I mean, there are some companies that it's just pro forma, and other companies that are much more innovative and really mean what they say.
I just want to jump in because Anna, you said something that I think is very important. Is the leadership of the firm will be a very good indicator of how serious a firm is about certain things. Like I'm sure in your classes you've heard the term tone at the top, and tone at the I think like if your leadership is sort of vocal and like not in like a press conference sort of vocal, but really like sort of really talking to the employees, maybe putting diversity in a conversation in its board meetings, and then setting out like goals and activities. And I think in terms of what Thalia has mentioned with Deloitte, just even being able to say what we have been doing for many years and what we isn't working the way we think it should have been working, and so we want to change things and look and see what else we can do. And that I think can tell you how important something is. Because I meet many people who are like, oh, we have a women's initiative at our firm, and checks all the boxes. I'm like, what do you do? And usually it's like, well, we let them work part-time after they've had a kid, and we let them still maybe become partner one day, because that's the only thing that's and so that's an important thing, but it's not the only thing. And it sounds, when you have that conversation, it really sounds like they don't really care, but they feel that it'll make their business look good. And so I think that's where you can see whether a firm is really being serious about something.
Yes. I would add to, so we're really talking about, the difference between window dressing and impact, right? So I think it's very easy to window dress. It is very easy for the optics to read a certain way. And I think you will hear a lot that, people put their money where their mouth is, that's when you know that someone's serious. But I've also seen people spending a lot of money on diversity and inclusion. And when you see diversity statistics, you're going, okay, you have spent millions of dollars, but where is the impact, right? So I think for Cone Resident in particular, because I also run, we call it CR Cares, but Cone Resident Cares, it's our corporate social responsibility program. There's a lot of intersection with diversity and inclusion and the communities in which you do business in and you work with and your clientele, there are ways to make impact that don't require a lot of money, number one, and or require you to spend a lot of money in communities to focus on pipeline, right? So if we're talking about, particularly in the accounting industry, I tell people, unfortunately, we are having to do a heavy lift in making accounting sexy for students. Like, it's just, it's not, like on the list of B school majors, it's not one of those things where, kids are running to become accountants. But I think when you're thinking about pipeline and how to get people paying attention to, wanting to become an accountant and wanting to work for accounting firms. Clearly, accountants do more than just accounting as well. I happen to work in the advisory group, so I'm more consultant than I am a bean counter. But at the end of the day, I think. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but you have advisory teams as well, right? So I think it's important to show up, and the impact part of it becomes more important than, so yes, it's a tone at the top, it's leadership, being committed. Our chief of staff, Risa Levine, always talks about how D&I has to be baked into our DNA. So it means everything we do, every decision we make, every client we take on, every community service activity we involve ourselves in, D&I has to be at the front of it, and that's where the impact comes. That's where it's not so much window dressing, which is fantastic about technology companies. Tech companies have a lot of money to spend in this area, where other companies, smaller companies, don't have a lot of funds in that area. But I think the impact comes when it is baked into your DNA, that when people walk into your doors, they know that you're taking it seriously, because from the time they go through their onboarding to the time they get into their new trainings or, the education programs, the marketing they see, the clients that we're recruiting, they're seeing it. And that's where you really see the difference between the window dressing and the impact.
Yeah, I agree. And, there are certain structural things. It's not just setting kind of like a message or a tone or, just kind of like releasing an article and we're doing X, Y, and Z. I'm a believer that people or individuals are going to act in a way that is consistent with how they're incented. And there's a certain component that we actually bake into our executive pay that measures the rate and pace at which we are hiring and promoting women and underrepresented minorities. And so we are signaling to our management and leadership teams that this is a strategic imperative for us. It makes good business sense. And a component of your pay is going to be measured upon the progress that we are making within our workforce. So it's not just, certainly agree with everyone. There's certain window dressing things that can be done, not as effective. You can certainly look at the rate and pace of investment that companies are making within their diversity and inclusion initiatives. But it's also making sure that we have the right incentives, support structures in place, where we're really rewarding the right behavior and rewarding certain actions that we think are important to us.
I don't want to pile on at all. I mean, 'cause we've been talking about this question for a while, but I do think we sometimes just focus on, is the firm doing something? Are they putting out programs? Are they spending money? Is leadership doing something? But I'm sorry, your first-year person that comes in isn't meeting with leadership. And so it really is important that that vision is shared by everyone going down the line, because that's where we see the breakdown and the root cause of the problem come in. It's that while leadership believes this is important, you have all of those day-to-day people that you're interacting with who hasn't made this a priority for them.
This absolutely anticipates what I was next going to add. First of all, before I ask my next question, so there's a lot of terms. Everybody know what D&I is, and inclusion groups and affinity groups. I just want to make sure, and Mercy students, raise your hand if you think accounting is sexy. Okay, let's just, get that right out there right now. Okay, fine. Just, I think that's an important point about awareness up and down the chain, and I was getting ready to ask about the continuum of someone's time at a company. So, for instance, onboarding. When you first come to work for a company, is this issue tackled at your companies, like during orientation, for instance? Anybody?
Yes.
Go for it.
Well, it really starts well before onboarding. We have found there's been actually many studies that have been made on this, that traditional interviews are just a terrible predictor of future workforce success. And so where we believe it is that it really starts upon at that first touch point, in which we are recruiting a candidate or an individual to come into the company. And really kind of expressing or providing our point of view on how diversity is important to us, how important diversity is in our candidate pools, how important it is to our hiring managers, that they are looking at the diverse mix of candidates that they are recruiting. And there's certain things that we do within our assessment and interviewing cycles to kind of break down, going back to unconscious biases, but providing more structured feedback that tends to break down known or unknown barriers that may impede a candidate's ability to differentiate themselves across the pool. And so would argue that it really should start maybe even prior to onboarding, but really at that first touch point in which you are going out to the marketplace and really kind of attracting an individual to seek employment into your company.
It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly my story. So as I was a women and gender studies and geography double major at Dartmouth College. I had no intention of working in the tech space. I had no intention of working in advertising. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the Peace Corps or something else that's human rights related, because that's what I want to do. Google, my senior year, decided to put on an event for women and minorities at Dartmouth. I also had no intention of attending. There was free food. Which is very important. And a couple of the women that I was on Women's Council with were like, hey, Google's doing this thing, we should all go. So I went and met with a recruiter who then told me to apply for a job. And here I am. So that was my first touch point with the company, was them emphasizing, we want to hire more women, we want to hire more minority candidates, like, please apply. Then there's the mandatory unconscious bias training during orientation. Then there's the check-in. So I've been really lucky in that one of the programs that Google has been modeling is pairing entry-level employees with senior leadership. Generally other minority folks, but there are also folks that are not, that will mentor you, and these are people that are going to be like levels and levels above you. So I've been lucky enough to have a mentor that's been guiding me since I want to say my first year in helping me figure out like where I want to go, what I want to do next, etc. And there's also the layer of the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force, which is the everyday, day-to-day with my team. So I think I've been very lucky in that it's been with me since the very beginning up until now, and I'm hoping that continues as I continue with the company.
Just curious, can you be honest with your mentor?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just
absolutely,
and not feel like you're risking being a complainer or a...
So my mentor is not a part of my organization, so she's a lawyer at the company, and she's not even like in New York, she's in California. So she's like removed from my day-to-day, but her job as my mentor is to be an advocate for me. So if there's ever an issue that comes up where I feel like I need to have an advocate, whether, let's say, for example, my manager is being difficult or my director is being difficult, it's on her for me to first express to her, hey, I'm having this problem, we brainstorm on how to solve it, and then for her to serve as an advocate for me. And she's been great at doing that. So, for example, she knew I was getting promoted before I did, because she had met with my director and they had talked about the process, and she was the one who actually told me that I was getting promoted. So it's I think every company does different things and every organization does different things. This is a new thing that Google has been trying to do. Again, we don't know whether or not it's working. So I can't tell you that it's been effective. It's worked for me, but I don't know if that's like how it's been for the broader scale.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm going to speak about like what the New York State Society of CPAs has been trying to do. Our programming tries to start in high school. So we have a program, it's called Career Opportunities in the Accounting Profession, and we work with high school juniors to, like over a week, we invite them over to find out how sexy the accounting profession is. And the time that they're, with, the group of State Society people who are there, they learn resume skills, networking skills, social networking, like, going to dinner, how to navigate that. And in addition to that, they also meet various CPAs who are in many areas, because accounting is everywhere. Everybody needs their beans counted. So, so we have this program, and we're starting with high school because we have to get the initial interest and to let our diverse population know that the profession is interested in them. And then we sort of follow through, hopefully through college. And I'm sure you all know that it is very, very cheap to be a member of the New York State Society as a student member. And I think it's very important, I'm going to say that, I think it's very important for you not just to be a member, but to be an active member, because one of my constant challenges is just like I'm always assuming what people want because people don't tell me, and I think it's very important for the student members, because you're part of that pipeline, to be able to come in and say this is what we would want you to do for us, and this is what we think would help us. And then sort of we're not in firms, but we're always trying to work to see where we can be of a benefit, where maybe we can sort of communicate with firms or just communicate with you and maybe give you services, because not everybody works at wonderful firms represented here. Not everybody works at firms that believe in diversity and inclusion and leadership, and not just like hiring you, but just getting you to the point where you achieve your career goals. And so we sort of try to work with you, not from cradle to grave, but like that that middle bit, like school to like maybe retirement, just to make sure that to help make sure that things work out.
What kind of structural guidelines are in place around the issue of retention of diverse employees? Anybody?
Okay, here, again.
I haven't heard from Maureen lately, so don't be shocked.
I mean, as far as structural guidelines, I won't say we have something written down, but we do look at our retention very closely. We look at trying to keep our numbers where the attrition is within or below industry standards, so we are focusing quite a bit on it. Protiviti, for if you don't know, is only 15 years old, so we are fairly new, and we are building these programs as we go along, but we are certainly looking at all those, and also, again, trying to find the impact of the employee network groups and making people feel connected and belonging and encouraging them to speak out. We do have open door with all members of leadership as well, and our folks are assigned to senior mentors where they can raise any concerns or issues as well. So we're still working on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a growing explosion of data that is now available to companies that they can tap into, to kind of assess the effectiveness of various programs, pinpoint issues or root causes that may be existing within their workforce, and then design or help to influence decisions, to improve the situation. So there's any number of different data points that we take a look at when we look at retention or attrition. For example, is attrition for women or underrepresented minorities above or below the rest of our workforce? Very simple. Are we promoting people, promoting women and underrepresented minorities at least the same rate and pace as the rest of the workforce? Are we paying people equitably, and we look at that constantly. And with more and more data being available to industry and with companies, there's even more proactive measures that we can now take, in which we are able to predict individuals, groups that are more or less likely to leave us. And we actually put in place proactive retention plans for those individuals, based upon, data and statistics that we see. And I think we'll likely see more and more of that as we, actually study, the effectiveness of various programs that companies want to undertake across their workforce.
Is this Watson helping you out with this, by the way?
Watson's part of that. Yeah, Watson's definitely part of that.
I'm thinking, right? We're going to raffle in a minute, and Manny, I'm going to get ready to try this. We've been talking a lot about unconscious biases, and I'm looking at the clock, and I want to make sure that we get to this. So we're going to raffle a few books that we have by an acclaimed social psychologist by the name of Mahzarin Banaji, who has written a book entitled, let me just get down to the title of this book, Blind Spot, Hidden Biases of Good People. And before we talk about this, I wanted to show you a couple of examples that have, I think, blasted onto all of our consciousness, some of us, one, maybe some another. If I say the Pepsi spot, just by a show of hands, how many are aware of the Pepsi spot and what happened with that? Okay, all right, good. So some of you are not. And this comes down a little low. I'm hoping that you'll see it okay. This is an example of a company where I'm sure there were a lot of people in the room and put together this spot, which was released and roundly excoriated within seconds in our world, as it is wont to happen today, for being racially, culturally insensitive. So let's see if I could do this. I have no idea even where oh, it's down here. Okay. So let's take a look at this. This would be this one. No? Yeah. And it's this one, right? Everybody, okay, so just, I'm hoping you can hear it. I'm hoping you can see it. Mostly, this was an ad for Pepsi.
Some said never, but they never done come. Yeah, and took our trust. It's been winning, but the lovers ain't done. Yeah, not on my watch. Took all my rights away. Telling me how to pray. Won't let us demonstrate. Wrong. We are the lions. We are the chosen. We gonna shine out the dark. We are the movement. This generation. You better know. Fire when the fire was ice. No, and so the light took all my rights away. Telling me how to pray. All I was demonstrate. Wrong. Well, living the core with the pride. All of the lions will strive. Working so hard to unite. United, we tired of lies. Tired of lies. We are the lions. We are the chosen. We gonna shine out the dark. We are the movement. This generation. You better know who we are. Oh, oh. We are the lions. We are the chosen. We gonna shine out the dark. Yeah, we are the movement. This generation. You better know who we are. Oh, we are the lions. We are the
Does that ring a bell with everybody? And again, I just would like a show of hands. How many of you find this to be tone deaf with respect to race and culture? And you all too. You want to talk about this for a minute? We could do the other one, by the way. So Dove, more recently, also released an ad that was intended to be culturally and racially sensitive, right? And here's what it kind of looks like. Up, she becomes white. Up, she becomes Hispanic. That's really it, okay? A black woman takes off her shirt, becomes white. She takes her shirt off, becomes. All right? That's the, and that too was, Dove said it missed the mark with a not so vaguely racist advertisement that made it the latest target of consumer rage. And the rage against Dove, I think, was actually nothing as compared to the rage against Pepsi, because of course Kendall Jenner was in it, so everybody, that sort of hit a nerve right there, and then it tried to co-opt the Black Lives Matter movement and so forth. Can we just talk about how this happened and how it is an illustration, if you think it is, of blind spots that people will have in a room when they're trying to come up with a message? Go for it.
I think yeah. So both of these commercials were absolutely tone deaf for a myriad of different reasons.
Here, pull your microphone closer to you.
So Pepsi was toned, I think just in general, like the idea of when you think about social justice and all the things that are happening in the world, like Pepsi, like drinking a Coke or drinking a Pepsi solves that problem. I think that's the first level, along with everything else. But it does make you wonder, right? So with these companies that are huge, you're talking about huge international companies, who was in the room when those decisions were being made? And if not everybody was included in the room, how did it get that far that it wasn't brought to a diversity and inclusion task force? It wasn't brought to, because I know that these are large companies, they have diversity and inclusion councils and committees and task force and affinity groups and ERGs and all of that. So I think that also speaks to the fact that diversity and inclusion and getting it right is still a very complex thing. And no one has a silver bullet. No one has figured it out. And I think these type of situations, if nothing else, I think it raises the level of the conversation and helps us to talk about what blind spots look like, how important inclusion is, who was in the room when this ad was put together. And I'm sure from a marketing standpoint, Kylie Jenner, the Kardashian family, clearly they are highly marketable. And they were thinking, hey, this is gonna sell a lot of Pepsi, right? Not realizing, particularly now, when social justice is so much in the forefront, outside of even the Black Lives Movement matter, just the things that are happening in the country, how that loses, that type of ad completely loses the point of people coming together, and that I can just give a Pepsi to a police officer and all,
it's all better.
Right. Like, this is right. But I think that it speaks to how important inclusion is. It speaks to how important it is for everybody to be in the room. Like Martin said, and they have a voice at the table. So it's not just important for me to be there. It's important for me to have a voice in that space to say, Dove, I don't remember the last time I used Dove and then my skin turned a different, probably not what you were intending, right?
Clearly is not what they were.
Not what you were intending.
Right? Unilever is I think Dove is owned by.
Yes, Unilever,
right?
absolutely.
They are like one of the good guys.
They're one of the good guys, right? Exactly, they're one of the good guys.
I think what happens is, as you mentioned it before, it's like what you're saying is not what's being heard, and that's part of being able to have the conversation with everyone, because I'm not sure what the full message of that ad is, but even perhaps, I don't even know, I don't even know how they could have fixed it, but there was no one, it's a conversation that I know many people have. When you see this, you're like, who was there? Like, nobody could have said, like, don't do this. There's so many people there, and nobody was saying this is not a good idea. And it's like, and that's why you have to be able to ask everyone, because I could think something is an excellent idea when sort of I'm portraying a movement or an activity in a certain way, and I need somebody with more knowledge, right, to be able to say to me, that's not going to work, and that's not going to make you friends.
I also want to say that there might have been someone who said something, but being the lone voice saying no does not mean that you will get what you want. So it's a matter, it could be a matter of there not being anyone there, or there not being enough people there, or the person not having enough influence to make the decision to cancel both of these ads. Right.
Do you think that a company's products should routinely be run through by some sort of D&I council to evaluate them just through that lens?
I think that until we reach a point of like true inclusion, you're still going to have to consult because you don't know yet. Yeah. I think that's it'll. I think maybe our goal should be to get to the point where you don't have to like have the councils and conversations with other people, because there will be no other, right?
Or at least that the teams will have enough representation of different, or at least the teams building the products will have enough representation of different backgrounds and people that you can make that decision in the team. I think the issue is that a lot of these teams are very homogenous, and that's where the problem is coming from. And if there's one or two people sprinkled in, like one or two women or one or two minority groups sprinkled in, that's not enough critical mass to actually make a difference. Right. If everybody around you is on the same page about something.
Okay. And I think even like taking this back to the world of finance, you read more and more articles, right, about when people talk about the business case for diversity, and you'll have sort of, I don't know, investment managers who will say that when their workforce became more diverse, they were making more money, and it's because like when you have a homogenous group of people, like everyone, like most like everyone's good ideas are going to be kind of in the same space, and that's why you need to get different opinions, and then somebody else will find a new good idea, which will sort of expand the profitability in that sense as well.
I want to go back to, we were talking about this continuum of, so there's onboarding and there's retention. Let's talk about promotions a little bit. Somebody brought it up. To what degree do you see promotions being contingent upon your ability to demonstrate cultural sensitivity, racial sensitivity, if you're a hirer, bringing people onto your own staffs who are sort of multi-ethnic and multicultural? And is that fair that promotions take that into account?
So yes, I think it's fair, only because people who don't look like you problem solve differently, right? And I'd speak for the teams that I hire. I happen to work for our government and public sector group, and I work on large disaster recovery programs. So the Hurricane Sandys and Katrinas and now Irmas and Marias of the world, those are the types of programs and projects that I lead. It is very important to me, one, particularly in situations like that, where you have communities that are completely decimated, devastated, all of the bad words, right, the bad D words that happens when a disaster happens, that I am recruiting also from the community, right? I want to make sure that my teams are indicative of the counties and the cities, et cetera, that are being affected by these disasters. Also making sure that I'm not biased in my own, it's because it's easy, right? So like I work for an accounting firm, I'm looking for, that you have an accounting background and a CPA, and you might be a certified project manager, like those things, even in hiring, that can be a barrier, right? people who don't have 4-year college degrees or only had a 2-year degree or, things like that. That doesn't speak to a person's ability to do a job. It doesn't speak to a person's ability to problem solve, to think outside the box, the biggest cliche business term ever, right? To think outside of the box. And so, yes, I think when you are putting together teams that are bringing innovation, bringing, it's particularly, like I said, in the type of work that I do, we have to be, you have to think about, okay, these types of disasters are going to continue to happen. We had the wildfires in California. So we know that our climate is changing, our populations are increasing, you have smaller concentrations of people in very, small areas. And so when disasters happen, how do we respond to that, right? How do we recover from these things? And I want to make sure that the teams that I'm working with get that they,
And if I understand you right, the cultural sensitivity, as opposed to the technical background in accounting, would be one of what you frequently hear employers talk about as soft skills. Not that I know your dean of your business school talks about this all the time, and I think that's exactly why. And so it would seem that would be one of those soft skills is cultural sensitivity, right? All right, I'm going to do one more question, and then I'm going to let you guys ask some questions, so be thinking about that. Somebody was talking about community outreach, and I just wanted to ask the rest of you about this. Do you have methods of exposing, say at the high school level, at the community level, young minorities to careers in business? Do you put volunteers out at initiatives such as career days to sort of let them see what is possible and how there are environments there that would be welcoming and inclusive that they should think about?
Yeah, and Google, IBM, within the technology industry, I can speak to the challenges that we face. And that is, when you look at the number and rate of women and underrepresented minorities that have been graduating from colleges with computer science degrees, those numbers have stagnated over the years. And the challenge for us has been, well, how do we work maybe in different ways and think about the problem in different ways, where we can perhaps capture, an individual, like let's say in elementary school or within middle school, to provide them, an entry point into exploring a career that maybe they wouldn't have considered otherwise. Yeah. And there's many different ways that one can do this. For example, you can start, at the, for example, elementary school level, promoting, little events to kind of highlight, methods, projects in science, technology, engineering, and math. We've also started an apprenticeship program. It's essentially a learn while you earn model, in which we go to non-traditional kind of like candidate pools in different social, economic areas of the country, to kind of encourage a greater pool of individuals that would consider entering a field within the technology industry. So I think industry has a role to play in this, in partnership, with our academics, with our academic initiatives and universities, because it's certainly a challenge that I think collectively our two companies have been grappling with. Is how do we encourage more individuals exploring careers in engineering, math, and technology.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of that, for at least from my understanding, for us, it's completely multifaceted, but I'm going to break it down in twofold. So on the engineering side, I'm a part of Women at Google, so it's an employee resource group for women, and we launched, I want to say like 200. We launched Made with Code, which is a programming around getting elementary and middle school girls interested in coding. We launched like 200 of those when I was in Michigan, like across a couple elementary and middle schools. So that's one entry point. I'm in New York. I'm the liaison between Google and Black Girls Code. So they have office space in our building that we launched last year. And so making sure that we're interacting and engaging with the girls in a productive and positive way. On the university side, like I think I mentioned this earlier, we have teams that are working with HBCUs. I can pull Howard out as an example, where we have someone from Google actually teaching in the college to kind of help their department get up to speed with the curriculum to be competitive in applying and getting placed at Google. We also have internships through the BOLD program, which is a minority recruitment program. So that's another step. On the sales side of things, which is where I'm at, we're currently working with an organization called Co-op that places CUNY, helps to place CUNY graduates in advertising agencies. So there's no silver bullet, there's no one-stop shop, there's no one thing to do. I think we're approaching it from a multifaceted perspective and hoping that something sticks, because this is all very new.
So I'm worried about Google taking over the world. Now they're doing some very cool stuff. That's great. Is there any final thoughts that any of you would like to share with us on this topic before I get to the raffle of the book and some questions from our audience?
Okay, I just want to, yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I always
absolutely.
have something to say. I think for me, the way I heard it, one of the biggest takeaways is that this is a very complex issue. It's when we speak about diversity and inclusion, right? It's like everyone who isn't a white male. Oh wait, straight white male. So it's and that's a lot of very different people, and I think that's a thing for us to always keep in mind, that it is such a complex issue, because sometimes, for instance, I mean, there are conversations that will happen where there will be an initiative and it's working in some way. Maybe it's a women's initiative, but then you'll find that perhaps women who are not white women are feeling excluded from it. You may have an initiative at a firm which is sort of aimed at people of color, but maybe you might find that people are saying, maybe our Asian staff or our Black staff or our Latino staff is there in the fore and we're being excluded. And so I think as we go through all of this, I'm sure all of us are very complex individuals. And so as complex as each of you are, this is that issue multiplied. And so this is why it's encouraging for me to hear that there's so many approaches that people are thinking about and welcoming. And that throughout all of this, I'm sitting with tech people, so we're all about innovation, that we continue to sort of innovate and come up with better ideas to get to the point where, something is better than sliced bread, right? Because that's where we're.
It's encouraging on both the human side and the data side, right? Because their data will drive certain decisions, and then policies, human resource policies, will drive certain decisions. And okay, and so I'm going to, before I take your questions, all of you who are worried about being the next person who develops that Pepsi spot, by the way, we have 3 of these books by Mazarin Banaji entitled Blind Spot. I guess, Anthony Greenwald is also listed as an author, so I don't want to leave him out. So I think these are numbers. So number 107 is, there you go, very good. Yeah, she's coming up. There you are, congratulations. Make the world a better place, by the way. Do away with your inner blind spot. Okay, 113. Come on up.
113.
Here. That's the way I was picking them. And 100. There you go. Enjoy. Hope you get a lot out of it. All right, so do we have, yeah, we do. We have a microphone right there. Questions for our panel, if you would just come down and just introduce yourself. If you're a Mercy student, if you're a Mercy faculty, if you're an invited guest from the community, come and let's ask some questions.
Just come on down and line up. Julie, just have the microphone on that side.
It takes a minute to, and I know I took us right up to 10 o'clock, so thank you in advance for hanging with us to answer some of these. I'm going to say some closing comments. Okay, yeah, so go ahead. Julia, go ahead. Is it on?
Looking for the button to press.
It's at the top.
Just look, it's on.
I don't know my glasses, but where's the button?
There you go. It's on.
Right there. So I'm Nick, I'm the last gen. Thank you for coming to our campus. My name is Julia Wetzel, I'm the Director of Employee Relations, so I work with companies to open up companies for our students. So the fact that you're here is a huge thank you. And to Denise and Kelly for organizing. And thank you to Tina, who's in the audience from IBM, who has personally hired our students and opened up doors to our students. The elephant in the room, I'm just going to call it as I see it. I still can't get my Mercy students hired by many companies who go to the Ivies. I love that it's starting. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm just getting to it. I love that it's starting, and I'd love your thoughts on, because I started cracking the door with 1 or 2 or 3 great hard skills, great soft skills. Programs of 70 interns, we get 1 or 2 or 3. So I would just love your ideas on how we can get more of our students. We're not Ivy League, but we're awesome. And our students do a great job, and they compete against the Ivies, and they do a great job. But I want more than 2 or 3 every semester. So what would be your thoughts in how we get your recruiting people here on campus, how I bring students to you? I'll do anything. But I would just love your collective brains on this.
So, go ahead. I was just going to say that there are a lot of organizations, nonprofits such as mine, but across all different diversity groups that have these national conventions, and within them embedded are job fairs, or sometimes some organizations will just have the job fairs. So, there are a number of companies that attend. They certainly have blind spots in terms of they don't really differentiate. They're looking at the candidate. So there's really a diversity of schools, and I would think that would be a great avenue. And usually, if you go on their website, they're posted. Sometimes they're local. Other times, we'll see a lot of students fly or just go together and maybe get a hotel room together. But it's usually a whole day job fair.
Yeah. So, I think it's a great question. I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I went to a small college just like this one in New Jersey. And when I applied to Deloitte, they did not look at my application at all. So it's amazing that I'm here today. And a huge part of that is you have to get creative. I could have totally given up on working at Deloitte. I decided to take another avenue, a long avenue, that I went down, and 3 years later I ended up at Deloitte. So one of the things I definitely agree with the getting involved with the Ascend, the NABRA programs, et cetera. So for example, tomorrow Saturday, I'm coming into work because we do have a program where we're gonna have a lot of smaller schools like this one actually in a case study competition, and that allows us to see them in action. So understanding what's out there and other ways that you can actually draw our attention, I think would be huge.
And the best ambassadors, I would argue, are the individuals that have graduated and are alumni of the schools, who we have hired, who we have hired into the company, where they can help to break down walls, barriers, point you in the right direction, and it's also a great resource for the students as well to tap into the alumni to say, hey, what's it like working for XYZ company? What did you do to kind of differentiate yourself, when you were interviewing? It's a great resource that I would encourage everyone to utilize.
Okay, come over here. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Kim Paris, and I'm actually the president of the National Association of Black Accountants, New York chapter, so I do think accounting is sexy. And I want to just thank all of you for coming out and sharing your perspective. I've been working on and off in corporate America for the last 25 years, and this diversity and inclusion has been around for the last 25 years, and it continues. So I just wanted to know how should the students translate the information that they've heard today in terms of working with companies that do have diversity and inclusion strategies, and should they be doing anything different as they interview? Should they be looking to do anything different when they get into the company? Should they be getting more just kind of give them, I guess, some clues on how they can be effective once they do into the workforce, and we're focusing on this whole diversity and inclusion strategy.
So as part of our national convention, we have a whole day devoted towards students. And, we really start with the basics, which I think are important, because if, you're not used to the corporate world, there's certain protocol that you want to be aware of, even as to how you dress, how you present your resume, having, soft skills in terms of your own presentations, ability to look in somebody's eye when you speak, all that sort of thing. And, I had actually no idea, but when, at our convention, we do have all these different seminars, and, it's actually much needed, because sometimes I'll hear comments from employers that, will comment on the fact that a student didn't even have, a proper resume, or, didn't really know some of the basics. So at the very least, that's what you should be, focused on for an interview.
Yeah, and I know we talked.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I know we've talked a lot about what firms should be doing and what the upper management or middle management within firms should be doing. I have to say, some of the onus is on you. You have to take full advantage of what's out there. I can personally tell you of an experience that I've had with a mentee of mine where I felt like I put a lot of time into helping her figure out certain aspects of the firm, and she just didn't take any of the advice that I provided, which it was interesting in and of itself. And so I would definitely say, if someone is investing in you, if you find that person who invests in you, you also have to show that you're worth that investment. And that's, I'm not saying do everything that your mentor says, but definitely show that you listened, you processed, and you're actually doing something to work towards your own success.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a freshman in the Business Honors Program here at Mercy College. And first, I want to say thank you so much for coming here and talking to us. But you guys talked a lot about diversity initiatives, and I was wondering what the impact of those diversity initiatives is on your overall company culture and how you see that impact the most. Sorry, that was
well, that's
I'm trying not to hug, so.
I can talk.
Go ahead.
I know at our company, we've seen definitely greater awareness and more openness, seeing all different career levels, being open to looking at different perspectives, being open to even different things we do in the office that we probably didn't do 10 years ago. So I do think raising the awareness, getting people included in these different groups, I think you had made the point earlier, it doesn't matter if you are of a particular association, everybody's welcome and everyone should participate. So it is the education, the awareness, and you see better teaming amongst the groups because people are respecting differences and respecting perspectives, different perspectives that they have. So we've seen probably more camaraderie and better connections through some of these programs in our company.
And I would also say that work is changing in the sense that, if you maybe look back 20 or 30 years ago, you had more kind of command and control structures. Direction set at the top and it's funneled down towards the bottom. Things don't operate like that anymore. The way in which work gets done is changing and evolving. So for example, we are seeing much, much more self-directed teams, bringing people together in which they direct themselves to set the direction and to assess outcomes on a very quick basis. You mentioned upon teaming, this all kind of goes back to that. And when you have, more, self-guided teams that work more closely together, I would argue that diversity becomes that much more important, in which you're really wanting to value different perspectives, different thoughts, and different ideas. And if you have, and Google actually did a study on team dynamics, if you haven't read it or listened to the podcast, it's fascinating. But this notion of team dynamics, I would argue, is particularly important from a diversity and inclusion perspective, as a team will not be effective unless or until that they have diversity of thought, diversity of background.
And that requires someone making sure that that team is
That's right.
Inclusive, as we would say.
And they've studied
right?
this, Team A, Team B. What makes Team A more effective than Team B? And certainly this is all part of that.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Hi, my name is Jonathan Lewis. I'm a freshman here, and I have sort of more of a statement and a few questions within the statement. But you guys have been speaking so beautifully, so I wanted to know some of your comments on what I'm about to say. But like you mentioned, you did the long route, right, where you had to do 3 years and whatnot, and you had to reroute your whole plan. So I think the biggest elephant in the room out of this beautiful discussion is that for minorities, most times in the workplace, we're at a huge disadvantage. Like the question you asked was a real good question, like at a small time school. So personally for myself, being a young black man here at Mercy College in a small school already really sets me back behind the 8 ball. I'm already competing with white America, and then to put me even at a more disadvantage, I'm at a small time school. So how do you really compete with this big ugly monster that's just roaming around and just setting a lot of minorities behind the 8 ball just by discrimination on their skin color, and possibly saying they don't have the skills because of their background, where they're from. I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Flatbush. It's not really fancy. There's not much,
Wow.
But I mean, the education system is nothing compared to New Jersey schools or prep schools. I mean, culturally speaking, it's amazing. It's the best place you can be culturally, but academically, it's not really strong. So,
All right, well, let's give them a chance to, I'm going to take a little bit of issue with small-time school, by the way. It is a small school, but not a small-time school, I think.
It's not Ivy, that's what I'm saying.
But let me stop you just so they can get a chance to answer your question about how you're supposed to compete.
So I'll answer that because I went to, not only did I go to a small school, it's a small school in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, so one, let me say this, I love Mississippi. Mississippi gets a very bad reputation, and I could talk about Mississippi all day long. But I will say, it goes back to a comment that was made earlier, the onus is on you, right? So we know, actually there was a video that was going around on Facebook recently it was actually awesome, illustrating the fact that we know that everybody doesn't start at the same place, right? And so the experiment that this particular, he's a coach at a high school, did, yeah, exactly, he did the race, right? So the prize is $100. He asked a series of questions that either move people forward or back on a football field. And at the end of that exercise, you realize there are going to be people who are so far behind the starting line to get to the $100 prize. I think the first part is recognizing and acknowledging that, right? So we know that we all don't start on the same level. Clearly, at a small liberal arts school in Jackson, Mississippi, someone looking at my resume compared to an Ivy League or even a bigger small school like a Dartmouth, or like putting my resume in that pool one could say is a disadvantage. I think the bigger part is recognizing what you bring to the table, how you can get into spaces by joining organizations like NABA or whatever your major happens to be. I personally took the community service route because I'm very much into social justice and youth and all of that kind of stuff. And it was recognized. Like at the end of the day, when you do good things come to you. I believe that wholeheartedly, right? And so when this is the market that I'm competing in. I know that I'm competing against people who went to better, undergraduate schools. They went to a prep school. They have connections and networks that my family doesn't have compared to, their families. It's about, what does Google do? How can I get involved in youth programs that Google has? What is Deloitte doing for young college students? How can I get involved in those types of programs? How can I get FaceTime with people that I normally wouldn't get FaceTime with? I did that personally, even in taking on the role of the chair of our National Diversity Inclusion Council. I was calling the global heads of diversity with Bank of America, with IBM, this is me not knowing, who these people are, but me saying, look, if we're gonna be successful in launching a diversity and inclusion program and making sure that we are recruiting people, I wanna talk to the experts in the field. And so I would go, a part of it, alumni networks. He said this, right? So who's in the alumni? Where did they go work when they first got out of school, right? So a part of it is you're going to have to do more work, which is the point of that exercise, right? You have more work to do, but it doesn't mean that, it's over for you, and that if somebody went to an Ivy League, nobody's going to be looking at you. As a black male in particular, to me, you are highly coveted, and companies should be looking at you as this is the type of person that we actually do want working in our company. You just may have to do a little more work to get more face time, more air time, so to speak.
If I could just jump in for just 1 minute, because I keep hearing NABA, and I heard about the Deloitte competition. So we have an NABA chapter on campus. We have an Alpha chapter on campus. We don't have an Accent yet, but we're going to be looking to do that as well too. We've had students who have gotten involved in these organizations like NABA. We compete. Kong is now working at Pepsi.
I apologized to her before we started.
But we've had students, because of their affiliation in NABA, get terrific jobs with major global organizations, big accounting firms, corporations, getting involved and participating in the competition. Last year, our students scored. We came in 3rd place last year in the Deloitte competition, and the year before, the first year we ever competed, we were in 4th place and got honorable mention. Every single one of our students who participated got interviews with Deloitte as a result of doing that. But to the point that's being made here, these are the types of things that students have to get involved in order to be able to get these opportunities. It's all about networking and getting involved in these organizations where you can do those types of things.
I am going to add, because it's like a lot was thrown at you, and it's like it's a lot, right? It's like you're probably thinking like, I don't know, Joe Bloggs, who knows people who went to Harvard. Like, he doesn't have to do all the things that you have to do. It's hard. I think, which is why I sort of talk about having a mentor, having support systems, sort of being a part of, I mentioned some of the other benefits of affinity groups, is having that support system so that when it's hard, that you have like a community to help you sort of work through this. The fact that you came here is a good sign for your sort of desire to actually succeed. But it's going to places and talking to people and having these conversations, and the various groups will help you with the training on like how to network effectively and how to make the conversations happen. And I know just from my time with the New York State Society of CPAs and with the other groups, the ACFE, is people want to talk to you. They want to they want to help because it feels good when you help someone. So there are all these reasons why. And so I think one of the big barriers for you is maybe to believe in that and believe in you, so that when you go out and you do this, that you actually have faith that there will be results and there will be success, because there are a lot of people. Like, I think when people, it's a phrase I hear often, is people are rooting for you to succeed. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you need to sort of bank on and, leverage, take advantage of, whatever it is. And I think but have your support.
I don't want to take too much advantage of their time, but so let's just.
Mine's so long.
Oh, you want? Okay, fine. Jump. Never mind.
Like, it sounds like we're saying networking, advocate, buddy, etc. From a very practical perspective, a majority of the people that get hired at Google are referred by other people. Mm-hmm. So if you don't make connections, you can't get a referral, right? So network, get to know people, get involved. It's a very easy way to get your foot in the door.
And the former president of our Black student organization is now at JP Morgan Chase. So take that switch in your head and turn it off that thinks you don't belong and they don't want you. They do. I get the employer request. Just do everything you can. Come to career. We will get you out there.
Get his name and give him a call. Like, that's what you need to do. Get his name and give him a call.
I know. We have this long line of people, and since the comment was based on something that I said, I do want to address, and I think you guys hit on a lot of the items that I have on my list here, and I'm planning on writing a book someday when I have free time. But again, going back to, you cannot give up. You cannot give up. You cannot get in your own head. You have to build your own confidence. I think that was huge for me. I think my confidence took a hit. I did extremely well in the small college that I went to, but here was Deloitte that didn't necessarily want me at the time, but I did not give up. I built confidence, and here's what I can bring to the table. Even as a first year, you can do that. Build confidence. The networking, as we mentioned, extremely important. And you have to recognize opportunity when it presents itself. If you miss an opportunity that presents itself, well, who cares if you prepared as much as possible leading up to that opportunity. And I have to tell you, and you can take this as good or bad, the truth is you are going to experience this for the rest of your career. You're going to experience this for the rest of your career. It's going to build character, and you have to, once you build that character and certain skill sets and habits, you use that time and time again. I have to prove myself every single time I want a new role. Or even my old role.
I'll tell you what, we'll do a couple more and then I'll let you guys come up and tackle them individually. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I work at PKF O'Connor Davies, so I'm coming from an employer perspective. And I guess my question is, so we are working very hard as a firm to have these diversity and inclusion councils and kind of getting some leeway on kind of getting them going and making them effective. And while we don't experience a lot of pushback, I'm interested to hear if any of you have ever experienced on some of these councils or anything like that, if you've ever had any pushback or any kind of, I guess, like reverse, I guess, type of conversations on how the council is being effective. So I just not that that's the culture that I have, but I'm just interested to kind of hear your experiences and or if you have any tips for kind of turning it, I guess, around.
Let me just make sure so are you looking for?
So let's say, for example, you are having trouble getting buy-in from your time. So how do you
Yeah. So I would say collecting data is extremely important. Working at a tech company, we're really good at it. And so we have data that says that like certain groups do not feel happy or not comfortable with the company, right? So like, okay, we have the numbers say this, so we're gonna, like, we have to fix it. So if you want to start out with like a survey or start out with some sort of data point to always be able to point back to, so it's not just like, oh, people feel weird. It's like, no, like X percentage of women are saying we don't feel comfortable, X percentage of whatever are saying we don't feel comfortable, and take it from there. Because once you have those data points, you can't argue with it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes.
Hello, thank you for your time. I do have 2 questions. They'll be really short.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Sorry, but I feel like a lot of people will relate to this.
Okay, go for it.
So my name is Lamide Ladoja, and that can be a mouthful, and I realized that growing up, that in high school and middle school, that in places that are less diverse, you usually are taught to conform. And I have a friend who is from Miami, and she couldn't speak English very well, but she was incredibly smart. But they put her in special ed classes because she didn't speak English. So for someone like her who it seems like the only way to fit in is to conform, what advice can you give her when she goes into the workforce?
Can I say something? I'm sorry. So I'm African, so my first name is the hardest thing for people to say because they see the N and they think you're supposed to say it, but you're not. Right. So what I will say is you own it. Right. I don't conform to anybody. And when I introduce myself, I say my full name. Yeah. I will never give you a nickname unless I'm going to meet you for 5 minutes. I give you a nickname. But if I'm going to see you on a daily basis, I need you to know my real name. I need you to know how to say my name because when I come to the table, I'm going to speak and you need to remember me. So own your name. Own who you are. That's who you are. That's how people are going to remember you because that's your brand and that's what's going to help you go forward. I never. My parents are immigrants, and I will never, ever disrespect by showing my name for an employer. I will never remove that. That's who I am. So you should never do that as a person.
So you are very well spoken. I think part of your question is for people for whom English is a second language and they aren't that well spoken, what can they do to either help themselves or find the mentor who will help them tackle that problem? Anybody want to address that?
Well, okay. I have spent some time at some Big 4 firms. I think, let me go back a bit. So there was a point where I was looking for a job, and a recruiter called me and asked me if I had a nickname, right? And I said, well, my name is Rumbi, which is very easy. And then he went on this whole thing about how this is what he said. He said, I have some Asian clients and they have adopted American names because people are more comfortable with American names. So you should think about doing that, is what he said to me.
And I had a thought session with myself, and it's sort of based on, and I know a lot of it comes into play is like what my parents had to go through to get to the point where I was. Like my parents, so my parents lived in what is Zimbabwe now, was Rhodesia, and at the time they weren't allowed, you couldn't send a kid to school who had an African name. So they had to, so when they had us, none of us had English names. It was like a point of pride. And so I think for me, like at that point, I was like, do I want to work at a firm that I don't belong in, right? And so I think that's my advice. Like, do you want to work someplace where you can't be you? Because you're there, like if you're in accounting, right, you're at work. Oh wait, you're still students. So you're at work like 8 hours a day, and it's like really awesome. But it's a lot of time that you spend at work, right? And so are you willing to not be you for a large portion of your life? And what will that do to you? That was my conversation with myself, so that is.
But I will also point out that it can be incredibly frustrating to correct people every single day. So I had never felt the need to change my name until I got my job, not because of Google. Everyone at Google knows I'm Samarli and calls me Samarli. My clients have for some reason struggle with it, and it's gotten to the point where I'm like, my name is Samarli, you can call me Marley, you can call me Simi. However, by giving them that option, they call me Samarli, right? Because they get it. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna learn how to say your name. So it's definitely a personal choice for you. Some people do prefer to go by nicknames. Like I have people on my team, like there's a Samantha, she's like, call me, everybody calls her Sam, just is what it is. So if you make that choice, it should be your choice. It can sometimes make your life a little bit easier, it can make it worse, but I would say it's a personal choice for you.
Okay, I know you have a second one, but I just want to let, okay, so maybe you could find them afterwards, just so that we can try to get as many questions as we can. Go ahead.
My name is Zach. I'm an accounting student here at Mercy. Just have a question. Like, do you guys trust or do not trust recruiters? Because what we're saying on diversity, most of us are diverse here. And most diverse students, like myself, we work and go to school. I may not have a 4.0 GPA. It's not going to happen. But I don't have a 2.0. I'm in the middle of the pack. However, my skill set, it is way beyond my age. Right now I have a job where I'm completely underqualified for it. But my boss, I've been working for him for 7 years. I got promoted from field research all the way to assistant director. Completely underqualified, I know that. I screwed up so much, it's not even funny. How can I take this skill set that I've learned through 14 years being on the workforce? I've been working since I was 16. I am 30 now. I decided to go back to school, get my accounting degree because of the accounting. How can I use that in my advantage in order to get myself standing out? Because when I apply for Google, when I go apply for IBM, I'm going to be competing with Ivy League, Stanford, Duke, etc. How can I use my previous skill set? It has nothing to do with accounting just yet, in my advantage. And would I be overlooked? Oh, Mercy College, just graduated, he's 30. But on paper, I don't look as good as I am.
Okay, let's let them answer. Yes.
So I just want, we don't only look at Ivy Leagues or the high schools. We would rather get the top students from a small school who are killing it than go just get an Ivy League name and get the last person in the class. So I just want you to know, not all companies do just look at that. I can tell you from my experience, when I went for my first interview at Arthur Andersen, I didn't have an internship, and I was sitting there and my resume was, okay, I did some recruiting on campus, didn't do too much more. I remember the partner looked at me and said, go out, have fun, waitress, do what you need to do for the summer. You're going to be working the rest of your life, come back in a year. So my experience on my resume, granted it was 20 years ago, was waitress. I had sold t-shirts. I could sell myself from customer service, multitasking. So how can you apply what you're currently doing to what you're going to need to do in the business world? So, I could have said, oh gosh, I don't have 3 internships, I'm not going to go. I just went right back at it and sold myself. So sell yourself based on the experience you do have. And I can tell you, we are not looking at who is that candidate that has 3 internships and, did everything on campus, because we know that's not reality anymore. We know people are working their way through school. Some people may go at a later time. So we are definitely re-looking at our campus recruiting and how we go to market and how we get the best of the best. And I was just at a salary conference last week, and we talked a lot about the traditional candidate isn't coming in with no experience anymore. right? People have worked their way up. People have experience and perspectives to bring, and we need to look at that as employers and recognize these people aren't coming in just to take orders and learn. And it makes us a better workforce, but certainly getting involved in networking and having those connections helps, but also selling yourself and how you can apply what you're going to be doing at your future company. So,
Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Mallory Baker. I'm an alumni, and as a student I was involved with the Accounting Society, NABA, and Alpha here on campus. So I know how important it is for students to get involved, so my question is for Ruby in particular. You mentioned that the New York State Society has opportunities and programs for college students to get involved. So can you talk a little bit about how they can get involved with those programs and the value it would bring to them?
Oh, okay. I will make this very quick because I know we're pressed for time. So, and I'm very happy to speak with anyone. So I mentioned our co-op program, which is for high school kids, students, and then we have a student membership, and I it's either $20 or $25 to be a student member.
Applications are up to the table.
There you go. Applications are at the table up front. And when you join, you're a member. I mean, you can't chair a committee because you have to be a CPA to do that. But other than that, you are a full member of the New York State Society of CPAs. And they have a lot of programming, and they refer. It's like a lot of the program is sort of aimed at what they refer to as the next gen. But I encourage people to join committees, to attend those networking events, attend a lot of the next gen sessions because they are just working on your resume, interview skills, networking. When you're on committees, you meet people because your fellow committee members are people who are working for their own firms or for wherever it is that they're working, and that's where you make the connections that could possibly help you with your career. And then through all of that, vocalize what it is you want the State Society to do for you, because as I said, people are sitting and they're like, oh, we think they need, because that's, the employers are thinking, we think they need, and they have a laundry list of what they think you need. And now you as a member should also say, yes, but I also need. And then the State Society can do that for you as well. So that's why, I think it's important. And I'm so glad that Kim is here, because I know I've been trying to get her, because we're also trying to work more with Ascend and Alpha and NABA, so that what we do has more impact. And that's, yeah.
Okay, one more, come up.
Thank you to each and every one of you. It was a fantastic event. My name is Tassin Kaur. I am a senior at Mercy College. I'm an accounting major.
Nice.
I think that overall these initiatives have a huge return on investment as far as the benefits to society as a whole. But how do you guys actually quantify the return on investment as far as profitability goes?
So at least for me being in a sales org, you can directly see how productive your team is down to a dollar value. And it's quite easy to look at the makeup of the different teams and see how they're performing. So, I can't speak to what that breakdown is because I'm not in HR. But I can say that my team is very diverse, extremely diverse, and we kick butt every single quarter. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll use our examples, and again, I don't know numbers in any way, shape, or form, but I know that there are audit bids, for example, or consulting proposals that we've gone out on that have not had diverse teams. And the response from the client has been, I cannot believe you walked in the door with the team that you did. We're not even going to consider you for this. I've also had situations where I've had a mentor who has taken me with him to a board meeting. And in that board meeting, it just so happened there were 3 women board members. And when we were leaving, one of the female board members said, I like what you're doing with your team. You're clearly focused on diversity and inclusion. So we're seeing that, we're hearing it from our clients, and that's really what helps us know that we're on the right track. Do I know the numbers, the ROI exactly? No, I don't, but I know that one client was happy, one client will never be a client because we weren't focused on it.
Right, and I think if you read articles, you will see there's data about the profitability of diverse. Just Google it.
And apparently Watson is all over this.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to stop because these people have given more than generously of their time, way more than they bargained for. So let's hear a round of applause, please.
Yes, I would like to say that this was really just terrific, scintillating conversation today. I could go on all day about this. So I want to thank our panelists. I also want to thank Edie for hosting this panel or moderating this panel. I'd like to thank the audience too. I think all of the questions that were posed were just really, really terrific questions. Really, showed that people were really paying attention to the importance of this issue. So I want to thank all of you for being here as well too and participating in the way you did. We have some parting gifts for our panelists from the State Society and Mercy College. So we're passing those gifts out now. And again, thank you very much. One last thing I do want to say is I was remiss before in thanking some very, very important individuals who helped to organize this event. And without that support staff, we could never have done this. So Valerie Petey is sitting in the back. Rachel Donahue is in the back. Zulima Munez was out at the front desk checking people in. She came here before her interview with KPMG today. And Lauren Musser was out there as well, too. So I do want to say thank you to those individuals. Like I said, this event couldn't have happened without you. Thank you.
I just want to put you guys on the spot as we're standing up. Would you be willing, on behalf of our students, to mentor any of our students if they would reach out to you in the appropriate kinds of ways, if they're looking to advance and as they're looking to tackle some of these issues?
Or perhaps to help them find a mentor.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear that, guys? Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thanks.